Season's greetings, one and all, and if you don't celebrate anything, just welcome. I celebrate Christmas, and as such, so does my little Mac Mini, and today we are going to shower it with a handful of gifts. Why? You might be asking. Why would I upgrade pretty much to the max a computer from 2007, a Mac Mini from 2007? Well, it's simple. I do dumb stuff. And thus, we're going to upgrade the Mini. Actually, it's not because we do dumb stuff. It's because I actually have a use for this computer. And basically, I want to hang it up next to my monitor on the wall and use it as a media center, music, YouTube. When I say music, I mean Spotify and stuff like that. YouTube and stuff like that, because I do a lot of work inside my little my little what would you call this, like the junkyard, computer junkyard. And it would be nice to have something up on the screen without having to set one of my many giant, or at least very large, PCs up on the desk, taking up space and stuff like that, using a lot of power. Anyways, I just want to upgrade this little guy and make it capable of playing YouTube and possibly put a more modern OS on there, other than OS X. What is that? 10.6.8, I think, are the numbers. So that's what I'm going to do. And in order to do that, we definitely need more than... well, first, let's real quick here. Quick refresher. This Mac is running, 10.6.8. It's got a 1.83 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo and 1 gigabyte of 667 megahertz DDR2 RAM. And as we saw last time, that is not a lot. It is not enough to do really anything. So we've got 3 major upgrades we're going to do this. Well, 4 if you count the new OS, but I'm not sure what I'm going to run on there just yet. But in order to get it to be able to do almost anything, we need more RAM. So we're going to stuff the max in there, which is 4 gigs of 667 megahertz DDR2. And with the current operating system that's on there, we're only going to see 3 gigabytes, but that's not a big deal. We will take back care of that when we put like a Linux distro or something on here. I'm not sure what yet. It might even be, I read somewhere that there is one more version of OS X, like 10.7 something. But even that's not really, it's probably not the one that's going to end up on there. Anyways, we're going to replace the spinning hard drive in there with Toshiba 128 gigabyte SSD. And that should get this thing, that's probably going to be the biggest overall improvement to the performance on this, just making it snappier than the, there's probably a very low RPM hard drive in there, and we're going to replace that. And lastly is the piece that I probably waited the longest for. It had to come all the way from China. We talked about this in the first video I showed this Mac Mini in, and that is the T7600, which is a 2.33 gigahertz dual core, versus the T5600, which is 1.83 gigahertz. The small boost in the core clock frequency is, of course, going to help things out. We're going to go up 500-ish megahertz. But I think the thing that's really going to speed things up is the fact that the T7600 has 4 megabytes of L2 cache, and the T5600 only has 2 megabytes of L2 cache. So we should see a pretty good little boost in performance, especially with all of these things coupled together. So let's get right to it. Let's tear this thing apart again, which I'm not looking forward to because that was a real pain. All right, well, that wasn't so bad the second time around. I'm sure the first time I, broke a bond that's been there for, for 15 years, actually. There's a few things to disconnect here, and I can flip this whole assembly over and reach all the fiddly bits that we need to upgrade. So let me do that right now. Okay, as you can see, got the motherboard back out, and I forgot that the heatsink uses these little push pins. Kind of wish I had some screws, like, I don't know, maybe nylon screws or screws with some rubber washers. Make this easier to replace, but I'll never be back inside of here. At least I hope not, to replace this. So I'm going to tediously remove those and put the new processor in. All right, I got the new CPU in there. New thermal paste and everything. Motherboard in, all the little connectors on. I'm going to put the RAM in it, and then we'll do a boot test. Make sure it boots back up. I hope it does. Every time I take this off, and this is the second time now, but every time I've taken these off, it's always scary because there's lots of little SMCs on there, and one wrong slip with a tool, and you can knock them off of there. And new RAM is in there. So whilst I was in here, I decided I would crack this little turbo fan. It's probably called a blower fan. Because you couldn't get some of the dust out of it by just using compressed air, and this is the grossness that's in there. It's actually a weird color, and it sticks to it pretty good. I don't know if it's nicotine, but it's something gross, so I'm going to use a toothbrush and clean it out of there so that my lungs will be happier. All right, cleaned out the inside of the fan. The light on my camera is picking up little tiny speckles, but way more. A lot of dust came out of that, so it's about 90% clean. So I think that's a good place for. So I think that's a good enough clean job on there. It might even be a little bit quieter of a fan now, since it'll be better balanced. But let's take this, flip it over. We're not gonna completely install it. We're just gonna flip it over and line things up and plug it in and see if it boots. All right, she's all hooked back up. Let's give her a go. Before we do that, of course, I got the RAM in there and the new CPU, and then the new hard drive we're going to do after and make sure this is all working again. So, hey, Chang. Good times. All right, and now for Safari. No. About this Mac. So there we are. Where's my mouse? Why is that mouse so hard to see? Maybe it's just me. 2.3 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo, and 4 gigabytes. See, I was told that this would only see 3 gigabytes. Is it different in About This Mac? Man, I'm gonna have to look into that. Okay, so that works. I am happy. Let's run some Google Chrome and see if we can't play YouTube any better. Okay, well already I'm seeing an improvement both in frame rate and the fact that it auto set up to 720p instead of 480. So it's definitely a huge improvement. Can we do? Come here. Can we do 1080p? And then play. Full screen. She is not the fastest one ever. There it goes. Okay, well, we are still skipping frames and stuff like that, but that might be due to the how old the version of Google Chrome is and how old this OS is. It's still watchable. I don't know. Well, unfortunately, here's something else that's a little bit less than optimal. My CPU-A temperature diode is at 71, just running YouTube. Again, it might get better with the newer OS. Who knows? All right, now so we get a gauge of just how much faster it's running as is without the hard drive, which I don't think that'll have an impact on the score here. We're going to run Geekbench 3 and we'll compare it to my old score we got. I don't know if I've saved one. Maybe I have. Let's find out together. Not done with the test yet, but we're hitting over 80 degrees on the CPU temperature diode. And the air coming out of here, you would believe it's 80 degrees. So, 81. Anyways, I mean, this is a situation that isn't typical, so I don't think we'll have to worry about these temperatures. Plus the chip is good to 100C per Intel Arc's website. So we'll see what we got here in just a minute. Our original score with the T5600 was single core 1072 and multi-core 1972. Sorry, 1927. And our new score is single core 1251 and multi-core 2279, and that is quite the improvement. All right, so time for the new hard drive, and with the help of my USB adapter, I'm going to plug it into that, swap over the information, and then button it all back up. So see you in a minute. All right, it's seemingly happily chugging away, copying over while basically restoring the SSD with the contents of the original hard drive, the 80 gigabyte. And yeah, this little guy here, it's not sure where it wants to be. It started at 10 minutes, jumped to 24 minutes, now it's at 44 minutes. I'm sure it's going to take longer than 44 minutes, so I'll see you probably in about an hour. Finally finished. It took every bit of 40 some minutes, but here we are. I'm going to swap over that. Hey, there you go. I'm going to swap out the hard drive and then button this thing back up, and it should be ready to go. And then I'll figure out what kind of a OS we're going to put on there. Okay, got it all put back together. Hard drive is swapped out, and we'll see if it boots. And this is the only one that I worried about it booting. I did read more than a few places that it just doesn't like some SSDs. So hopefully we, you know, hit the lotto here. So, a chime is good. A bong is good. Where's the Apple logo? I'll give it a minute or two, see if it'll start. All right, about 30 seconds later, and we have the Apple logo and the little spinny pinwheel thing. It's taking it a minute to start up. Oh, I don't know anything about this. This thing is scary and new, and I don't like it. Wah wah. So I don't know what this means. So I'm going to do some research. And unfortunately, we're going to leave this guy just like this, because I have no idea what we're supposed to do in this position with a Mac of any sort. So I'll definitely get to the end of this at another day, another time. But as for now, it's late in the day on Christmas Eve, and I think I'm about done for the day. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Okay, we're back a little earlier than I had expected. I got some good news. We are up and running on the SSD. Where you at? There we are. And really, what I had done, and I'm not an expert at this in any stretch of the imagination, but this is the original hard drive, and I hooked this up via USB. I held down the Option key while starting it and picked to boot off of this, and then I just did the same thing I did before through Disk Utility. Made a did a recovery to the SSD that's in there from the source of the original hard drive, and this time it just worked. Only difference being that the original hard drive was in USB and the new SSD was, you know, hooked up SATA. So I don't know if that makes a difference or what, but we're running, and I'm not going to question it. We're just up and running. So that brings a little closure to that, and next time you see this thing, I'll have it, you know, put together. I'm kind of messing around with it right now, trying to come up with clever ways to help it cool itself off, or keep cooler rather, because the temperature still gets up pretty high. I mean, I'm just sitting here at idle at 42, but if I run, you know, YouTube, we're going to see 70 or 80 degrees. So, yeah, until next time, thanks for watching. All right, quick little update. I know I said I was done, but I've been experimenting with keeping this thing cooler. You already saw that it was sitting on top of here. I'm just experimenting with lifting it up and letting cool air get up underneath, because that's where its intake vents are. You can't really see it. Yeah, see those little slots? Those are the intakes. And when it's sitting down flat on here, of course, you know, there's almost no air flowing through there. And so once I lifted it up, once I lifted this up off of the desk, it dropped a few degrees and things are a little bit better. And I noticed that the fan, it kind of hardly never ramps up. So I found this little program called SMC, SMC Fan Control. And it's pretty cool. I raised the default speed, minimum RPM was 1500, and I bumped that up to 2500, and it has made a world of difference. That's the temperature on the, what do you call it, the CPU, the actual temperature diode. And we bump into 70s once in a while, but for the most part, it stays around 65-ish, 64-ish. Not sure why it jumps up and down. I'm sure it's doing stuff in the background. However, I do want to get this thing running a little bit cooler. I know Intel says that the chip in there can run at 100 degrees, but you know, what about the rest of the components in there and stuff like that? So I'm experimenting with things to keep it running cooler. If you listen, the fan is kind of loud. It's definitely not silent. And maybe I can take it apart and clean it up. I know I already brushed the dust off of it, but maybe I can open it up and clean out the gunk from it and maybe add a little bit of grease or oil to make it spin a little happier. We'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm really gonna go this time.